I suppose the conclusion has been arrived at. I suppose number one, the IFA farmers have been outside that Bord Bia offices for over a month, and they were there for 24 hours a day. It was around the clock. It was absolutely for us as individuals quite grueling to be able to sustain that. But this is a subject we would be very concerned about, again, obviously, the chairman of Bord Bia bringing in Brazilian beef into this country when we export 90% of our beef. And I suppose concerned about well, what does it mean and why is it happening? And I suppose the question really is, you know, bringing in Brazilian beef, and actually we're here today on the launch of the Clare Biodiversity Action Plan above in Cairn, beautiful day. But we talk about biodiversity and then that space about bringing in beef from a country which really has none of that in terms of ranching. And, we talk about the rainforest and all those issues. And then we talk about beef coming in here again and destroying really a system that we have here in terms of the type of farming we have here, in terms of the standards we have here, and then coming in with no standards. And we'll say, well, why? And would an individual who is chairman of Bord Bia, which sets those standards, would bring in that product here?
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
And I think it's fair to say, Stephen, that the
question,
context for this as well is the Mercosur trade deal. Your organisation is obviously opposed to the deal, and you would see this as perhaps normalising the import of Brazilian beef or South American beef, which you don't want down the line.
No, absolutely not. Because, in terms of how can we expect to even compete with that product? And if we don't compete, obviously we lose our farmers here. We lose the product that's produced here. And then the general society have no choice but to eat the Brazilian product, because there's nothing else available to them. And, from so many levels, it is so unbelievable and so ridiculous. And we're questioning, why does our government even back that space? And it even brings back to that, we had another programme on RT last night about, Larry Goodman, and we have the tale of the two Larrys. We have another documentary in a couple more years, down the road about Larry Murrin, and the concept of bringing in that Brazilian product in here and what it will do to decimate our type of farming and our economy of farming in rural Ireland.
Uh-huh. The IFA has said that it put a proposal to the board 10 days ago that identified 7 strands that should be examined, and the chair would step aside while these are being considered. That's what the IFA was looking for, and they say that this was the basis for the outcome, that there will be a full governance review. Stephen, would you be able to tell us what those 7 strands are, or even give us an idea of the basis for this review?
Well, again, the basis for this review is again about, number one, obviously, I mean, the position of Larry Murrin as chairperson, and how he can dictate in terms of his actions in terms of that space. In terms of he was able to ignore. We have 2 farmer representatives on that board, and he was able to ignore them. So obviously that's one area. Second area, in terms of, I suppose, why the product is coming in here. And thirdly, in terms of, I suppose, how it's going to decimate our farming here. But I suppose that there's so many questions being asked here, the whys, the ifs, and so there'll be a lot of work to be done in between of, well, why is all of this happening?
There has been some criticism of the manner in which the IFA has gone about its protest. Indeed, we saw 1,500 people attend a protest outside Minister Martin Hayden, the Agriculture Minister's constituency office, at the weekend, during which damage was done to signage at the office. Minister Hayden described the protest and again the way in which it was gone about as reckless, and the IFA has said that those signs would be replaced. Do you stand over the way in which the protest has been carried out throughout the last month?
Absolutely. And I mean, Minister Hayden has completely and utterly ignored the situation. It has been very disappointing from a minister point of view how he couldn't have got involved and try and get in and sort this much quicker. And disappointing in his whole approach and handling of this scenario, and even surprising that he would allow it to get to the stage that it got to. And even his lack of understanding of the consequences to farming in terms of allowing Brazilian beef in here, and allowing individuals bring it in here to allow it to go back out to our other European customers, which potentially can undermine our product. So there's so many questions that we need answers to, and I suppose it's actually mind-boggling for us as farmers to think that the minister, who is supposed to have our backs, and would get so excited over a petty few posters, and okay, obviously shouldn't be damaged, but I suppose when you have that level of anger and that level of frustration, and with 1,500 people, there's always one individual that can let down the side a bit. And so I suppose, look, how do you get a message across? How do you get to the point where he actually will sit down and listen to you? And that didn't happen, and that was the disappointing aspect of this. So the question, do I support? Absolutely, 100%. The demonstration, the farmers that were involved, absolutely. Can I say I see damage being done? Again, I don't know exactly what posters or things were damaged. Yes, they will be replaced. That's the right thing. Shouldn't have happened, but the frustration is there. And how do you event that frustration? And I think a lot of that is back down to the minister for allowing you to get to the level it did without he trying to sort it sooner.
And just to
I think a lot of the blame falls back to him.
Okay. Just to conclude, Stephen, so the review will be commissioned by the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine, and it's to be completed by the 30th of April of this year. Given your own views and the views of the organisation on the Agriculture Minister, Martin Hayden, how confident are you that that review will be carried out in a manner that's satisfactory to farmers and taking their concerns on board?
Well, I suppose, to knock it before it starts would not be a wise thing to be doing. We would be concerned, I suppose, with the lack of dialogue that has happened to bring us to the point of now that it took us a month before we could even get to a stage where we could find a level of being listened to. But I suppose we don't know the makeup of that board. We don't know what questions will be asked, but there are serious questions to be asked. There are serious questions in terms of how the process and how big business can dictate and to the farming sector, and how they can undermine that farming sector in terms of the good work that's been done in terms of traceability, in terms of all of that space. So there's a lot of questions to be answered and asked. So will it be done under the time? It's difficult to say. It'd be great if it did, and if it did deal with those issues, but I'm not 100% confident.